Well, good afternoon. I'm not going to tax your time speaking about philosophical definitions of things. You have heard quite a lot about it. You still will. The whole festival is dedicated to this issue. I want to concentrate only on one aspect of the whole idea of thing, and even more importantly, one aspect of the whole idea of the division of the world between the subject and object, between humans and things. Charles Peirce, one of the greatest pragmatist philosophers, memorably defined things as whatever we are thinking and talking about, we the humans. Our thought and our talk defines the things and in a sense create them by our talking. Well, we know very well that about the bottle, about table, about the chairs you are sitting on, they are defined by our users of them. We are using them. What is not immediately apparent from this definition, however, is that there is a sort of relationship already understood, assumed, tacitly assumed, under this sort of distinction between humans and things. Relationship is a relationship of power. We are humans, we intend, we have motives, we have needs which needs to be satisfied. We have will to act on those needs. But the things are the very opposite of it. They are lifeless, they are inactive, they don't think, they don't speak, they are instead compliant and must be, ought to be, enduring our interference in their existence. Things are as much meaning as we put into them, nothing more than that. And because we put in them the meaning, it is shaped, this meaning, the very idea of this meaning is created according to our needs. Our needs have the preference. We divide the things around us according to their relevance or irrelevance, utility or useless, significance or non-significance, propriety or incongruence, and above all, first of all, we divide them into suitable and unfit to inhabit, to be present in the world in which we live. Power is, by definition, by its nature, a relationship of exclusion. You just exclude unnecessary, uncomfortable, bothering things, elements, objects from your world. We pass this judgment. The things keep silent and never answer, but always obey. They don't answer either because they are numb and dumb, or because they are not allowed to answer, or because we would listen to them, even if they try to raise their voice. Well, so what is hidden behind the distinction between humans or subjects and things or objects is the idea of redundancy, superfluity, which is also the product of our thinking and talking, as much as the product of our thinking and talking is their definition and their meaning. Well, that's as much as I wanted to go into philosophical problematics of thingness, of being a thing. But now, from now on, I want to concentrate only on one aspect of the, not one aspect, one impact of that sort of approach, of that sort of understanding on the nature of our social life. I want to focus on one thing, really, on the transplantation of the thinking about the world view, from the antagonism, juxtaposition of thinking subject and obedient subject, transplantation of this frame of thinking, frame of cognition, from upon the relationship between human beings. And that's very strange, because I don't believe that Charles Peirce, or even before him, Descartes, who actually created, introduced into philosophizing the distinction between subject and object, that they anticipated that that may happen. When they spoke about things, they normally had in mind the inanimate object which really do not have the ability to think and to talk. They didn't anticipate the possibility that in the relationship between human beings, the distinction between subject and object, human, really human, thinking human, talking human, willing human, motivated human, and so on, and the recipient, the receiver of his or her action will become the pattern in any kind of society. But it happened. It happened now, and it happened, I suggest to you, ladies and gentlemen, on responsibility mostly, primarily, of consumerist culture. Consumerist culture which posits the whole of oikomene, inhabited world, as a huge container filled to the brim with potential objects of consumption. What is the object of consumption? Object of consumption is what satisfies my need, or which answers my desire. In any way, something which I consider for one reason or another useful. Well, very much, you know, from your own practice, you go to the shops and you see that over and over again, the goods with buying of which you are tempted in the shop by inscriptions there, by advertisements, this is user-friendly. User-friendly, you are the user, you are the prospective user, it is friendly for you. There is no speaking about you being friendly for the thing you are going to buy. It is the obligation of the thing which you buy is to be friendly to you. And the other promise, which you find in all advertisement, is that you can do it right away, without any effort. You don't have to study complicated mechanism of procedure. You just take it home and start playing right away. Now, these are very good aspects of one relationship, not necessarily human-thing relationship, not obviously human-human relationship, but a relationship between client and commodity. After all, you go to shops in order to make your life more comfortable, more convenient, and you wouldn't suffer easily, you wouldn't suffer lightly if the thing you brought home resisted your will. You would take it and bring back to the shop as a faulty one and would demand the return of money. Well, perhaps it is a good thing in the relationship between clients and shops, but if transferred onto the animate part of the universe, and particularly the human part in the animate part of the universe, then we have a catastrophe. Then we have a catastrophe. Well, why we have a catastrophe? Because I mentioned already to you, relationship between subject and object, according to classical philosophy, between human and thing, is a relationship of power, all power on one side. It is an ability to conduct a monologue, not to listen to the other side, not to expect an answer to what you are doing. And it is also, for the second, there's another tacit assumption under the formula of this relationship. There is absence of moral judgment, The moral criteria, the moral principles, the moral commandments do not apply here. They may apply only to other people like me. They may apply only to people who also have ability, the gift of thinking and talking, and things obviously don't having this ability cannot be considered to be the subject of moral relationships. So relationship to things is neither good nor bad. You just use it. You don't ask the thing whether it gives it pleasure or not. You are not expecting an answer even if you ask. And if you get bored with the thing, if it served all your immediate desires and doesn't promise any more than that, there is something like satisfaction fatigue. You just throw it away, go to shop again, and buy another gadget, another implement of the same kind with 2 or 3 more extra gadgets, which the previous one did not have. Part of the power is, I repeat what I already mentioned before briefly, right to exclude and to dispose of. This is, ladies and gentlemen, the reason why it is so catastrophic when you transplant the consumerist principles on relations between human beings. And expanding these consumerist principles on relations between people is inevitable. Inevitable because we all, perhaps not the oldest among us, I was born in somewhat different kind of society, but then I am one of the ever fewer exceptions. But normally, people alive today have been trained from the early childhood in considering the world as a container full of possible pleasures. And the idea was to find where they are stored, these pleasures, to go to find the right shop, and then to orient yourself among the shelves, among various things on display, which one fits best the task of thing, namely task of satisfying your desires. Now, that is typically a moral attitude, which commodities perhaps deserve, but human beings most certainly do not. But the pattern of relationship, which is more and more dominant in our society of consumers, is made after the pattern of the client-commodity relationship. That is what is happening. This kind of relationship is known in sociological debates, sociological discourse, as pure relationship. What does it mean, pure relationship? Pure relationship is pure because it has no strings attached. You don't swear loyalty forever. You don't take obligations binding you for the future. You don't want with this relationship to start to resolve any other issues apart from one only issue, and that is to get satisfaction, Very often, pure relationships are described and defined as based on mutual satisfaction. Mutual satisfaction. If only on that they are based, if that is their only purpose, then obviously, if satisfaction stops, there is no reason whatsoever you can think of to stick to the relationship. You are free to go. Free to go. That is why pure relationship, which replaces all kind of relationships till death do us part, relationship including self-sacrifice for the needs of the other person, other member of the same partnership, my partner, and readiness for compromise, striking the middle road between her and my wishes, and so on, replaces all that with the ability to write, in fact, to go away without guilty conscience, without apologizing, when satisfaction ends. When satisfaction ends. What is, however, and because of that reason, this passage to pure relationship was described as act of liberation. Really, we are much freer engaging in pure relationship only. We could rest, be consoled that in case something goes wrong, in case I am bored, in case I find a better opportunity, better proposition than I have now, I am free to go. The trouble is that in this description of pure relationship as based on mutual satisfaction, one word is a lie. The word mutuality. Well, it is true that in order to create partnership between two human beings, you need agreement, acceptance, readiness of two sides. But to break it, one is enough. To break it, one is enough. One side got bored, one side wants to untie hands in order to grasp a different kind of opportunity which never existed before, and the other side is then the victim, abandoned. So, this act of liberation brings in its aftermath also an undesirable, unexpected, unwanted consequence, which is the state of the constant tension, anxiety, and fear. What if the partner first decides that enough is enough? What if I am to be abandoned? In other words, allegedly, apparently, deceitfully, both partners are subjects. It is relationships between partners, between subjects, between the active parts, thinking parts, intending parts. But in practice, it is very quickly, after being created, transformed into an association of two frightened beings, each one appalled by the possibility, by the prospect of becoming a thing, namely replaceable and disposable. This is why I think we can, that's how we can explain, the very well-known brittleness, frailty of contemporary human bonds. They they have a lining of anxiety, uncertainty. They are, in fact, a recipe for a state of permanent anxiety and fear, simply because this mutuality under the circumstances cannot be an illusion. Well, it is manifested in many ways. This prevalence of the brittle, easily untieable kind of relationship, the passage from old-style community, which is considered by rising amount of younger generations as something oppressive, something which is too tightly controlled our life and therefore should be renounced or loosened one way or the other. Passage from old-fashioned community to the novel phenomenon, which is the network, which is much easier to enter and much easier to opt out. Both sides, entering and exit, are made comfortable without effort, convenient, without much trouble involved, unlike breaking the old-fashioned style of relationship. You don't have to profusely apologize, to invent reasons why you break the relationship, to provide explanation, to make a lot of lies on the way. It is just enough that you stop answering the messages, that you stop twittering back, that you efface the person from your directory of friends. So the moral aspect of human relations is all but covered up, set aside, sometimes so fully, so energetically, that it stopped being visible. You can do things which otherwise would cause you guilty conscience and suffering, pangs of conscience, pains of conscience. But now you can do it freely, thanks to the superficiality of the relationships, thanks to not anywhere stamping firmly on the ground, going through earth, but as the fashionable expression has it, we are surfing. We are just gliding on the surface of things, very seldom stopping, looking deep, and interesting yourself what is happening down there. And in case it is not that easy as promised, then again, consumerist culture has a medicine for moral pangs, for guilty conscience. Every shop, apart from selling things which it advertises, selling also something else. Is selling moral tranquilizer. Every shop today is a pharmacy. Well, you behaved immorally. Well, you have been already, by the nature of pure relationships, excused from moral guilt. But nevertheless, morality is a very stubborn phenomenon. And each one of you, each human being is by his or her nature a moral self. The court, even the most supreme court, could absolve you from guilt, but morality is much more severe. It wouldn't. And then again, to get rid of moral scruples, shops are hurrying to help you, assist you. Buy him or her whom you do some harm a gift. Well, you are not only, in case you cause breakdown of relationship. It is a general medicine for all kinds of guilty conscience. You love another person, but you are also in love with your own professional career, particularly today when jobs are brittle, and if you are not competitive enough against your workmates, you will be victim of the next round of cuts, next round of redundancy. So you need to serve properly your career. And because you serve with all your heart your professional career, then you have to neglect people whom you love. You can't spend as much time with your partner as it would be desired to confide in each other, they update each other on what is happening in life, discuss matters of common interest, and so on. You cannot sit together with your son or daughter who comes from school and expect father or mother to sit together and help in doing homework, or simply listen and ask and express interest. How was it today in school? That bully was again there, and what interesting and what boring happened here and there. You can't do it because you lose competition in your workplace. So you have guilty conscience. You neglected duties of the loving person. Fortunately, there are shops. You buy gifts. Well, Christmas, as you know, is already a commercial festivity, not a religious any longer. Everybody is busy buying gifts each other, compensating for all the guilt the whole year past of neglect, of not enough attention, and not enough love. So all these factors come together. Enforcing, intensifying this subjection of human relationship to the rhythm and pattern of consumerist life. Well, Jonathan Franzen, very clever, very insightful social scientist, and also a very good journalist, wrote once that the ultimate goal of technology, the telos of techne, is to replace a natural world that is indifferent to our wishes, a world of hurricanes, hardship, and breakable hearts, a world of resistance, with another world, a world so responsive to our wishes as to be effectively a mere extension of the self. One would say it is all about comfort and convenience, stupid, about the effortless comfort and comfortable effortlessness. And that is where the development of marketeers, of people specializing in tempting the prospective client, promoting new kinds of goods on the market, the direction in which they are looking. The ideal, I don't know whether you have reflected upon it, whether you articulated it for yourself, I don't know. But certainly behind all that behavior, there is some ideal, unspoken ideal of a world made of one's wishes alone, of the purchasers, the consumers, the users, and beneficiaries' wishes. The idea, well, the latest iPad. You can expand things simply by moving two fingers. Just imagine what a convenience. The computer dating, instead of old-fashioned flirting, which required a lot of ingenuity, a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of effort, and it was full of risks. You just select your prospective partner from the list on the screen, which describes every single features, the height, the color of skin, the color of hair, the size of the hips, and the age, and whatever, as if human beings were just an aggregate of features, like the commodities in the shop. The internet dating, childishly easy, because you can select all details of the future partner on the date before it actually happened. And then childishly easy also, because if you don't like it, you can return commodity to the shop without any consequences. Now, that is the consumerist pattern when it is being transferred on the relationship between people. What is the alternative? Alternative is what we all dream about, and I think alternative is the oldest need which every single human person fights to satisfy, and eternal human dream, the source of poetry and music, of everything which is beautiful in life and in the world. And that is what you and I call love. That is the alternative. But love is exactly the opposite of this alleged substitute offered by consumerist culture. Love means long-term, perhaps even eternal, commitment, and therefore mortgaging the future, accepting the possibility of risks and disappointments, readiness for self-sacrifice, readiness to surrender part at least of your own wishes for the sake of making the partner happy. The sanitized, thorn-free and risk-free product is anything but love. What is offers is rather the insurance against the dirt, which, as the same Franzen whom I quote said rightly, dirt is what love inevitably splatters on the terror of our self-regard. Love, true love, is a challenge to your self-regard. And therefore, many people prefer making friends on the internet, because love has nothing to do with that. You are just listing them. I keep repeating, I am still under the impression of one addict of Facebook who told me with pride in his voice that he managed to make 500 friends in one day, to which I answered that I am already 87 years old, unforgivably long life, but I didn't manage as yet to make 500 friends, which means that what he means by friends and I mean by friends is something entirely different. Well, the sex-love issue and the love issue itself is now, as Jean-Paul Kaufmann, very brilliant French sociologist, whom I recommend wholeheartedly to your attention, is now more confused than ever. According to the romantic ideal, it all began with sentiment, which then developed into desire. Love led via marriage to sex. It was very inconvenient to admit between us. We now, I continue quotation, we now seem to have two very different options. We can either cheerfully indulge in sex as a leisure activity, or we can opt for a long-term commitment. The first option means that self-control is primarily a question of avoiding commitment. We are careful not to fall in love. Now the big question, ladies and gentlemen. The big question is, do we blame the advent of computers, of mobile telephones, of iPhones, of iPads, of all these electronic devices, which serve very well this new superficiality, this new surfing character of human relations? Do we blame technology for what's happening? Well, I suggest to you, ladies and gentlemen, that computers owe their brilliant lightning speed career to offering their users a better opportunity to do what their users always wished to do, yet could not do for the absence of suitable tools. They are not the culprits. It is consumerist culture to which they adjust themselves, which they serve so promptly and so well and so effectively, which is to be blamed for them. But neither are their saviors. Simply, the mess is rooted in the way our existential predicament is deployed by the kind of society we have constructed while being constructed by it. There is no our doom in computers, and there is no our salvation in computers. Computers are tools. They may be used for many different purposes. We are eager to use them for this purpose and with this result for better and worse. To extricate ourselves from that mess would need more than changing the tools, which, after all, assist us only in doing what we will be doing anyway, only in a more cumbersome, more awkward way. There are other things which are related to this consumerist culture which need to be taken a long look of and considered. To start with is the idea, which is very often associated with the consumerist culture, and consumerist culture is very eager to promote it tooth and nail on every occasion, namely that all roads to implement, to fulfill the tasks which are arising in the course of human life lead through the shops. That in fact the only way, the only universal medicine, I would say, for any kind of human desires, and above all, the desire for dignified, respectful, respected life, and the desire for happiness. Now they are achievable mostly, primarily, perhaps solely through consumption. The other, that is on the individual level of you and me. We are told that our pursuit of happiness, our pursuit of life tasks need to lead through the shops. Somewhere in some street, in some shop, on some shelf lies the medicine for our problems. And the task is to find out. We are so busy looking for them that we have abandoned and are forgetting the old-fashioned ways of pursuing happiness. For example, long, pleasurable talk or exchange of mutual assistance with your neighbor, with your friend, family life, the old-fashioned instinct of workmanship described already at the beginning of 20th century by Thorstein Veblen, the Norwegian-American sociologist, instinct of workmanship, which simply means the satisfaction of the work well done. All those were the sources of profuse human happiness, but we forgot the skill of using them, forgot the skill of doing them, most of us. And the consumer markets constantly nagging us with their successive temptation, does whatever it can to help us forgetting them. That's on individual level, I repeat. On social level, it is even worse than that, because on social level, our societies, our governments, our political elite forgot how to serve the electorate, how to serve the population, how to serve the nation, any other way as apart from increasing the gross national product. Rise of GNP, the medicine of all social ailments. Is there a social problem? Is there a new demand which is not satisfied? Are people hungry for new reason? What is the solution? What is the answer? Further rise of consumption. As George W. Bush instructed Americans just after 11 September, go back to normality, go shopping. You know, after the national trauma, the best medicine for this trauma is to go back to the shopping. No other ways of satisfying, resolving social problems, but further increasing the production of consumer goods. Which means, on the other hand, also the increased exploitation of already exploited planet, which is trembling, which is deprived more and more of the resources necessary to sustain life on Earth. This is the problem, ladies and gentlemen. The ways of resolving social conflicts, social antagonisms, by, say, thinking again about redistributing the loaf of bread, it is generally, universally accepted today by the left and the right of political spectrum alike, that it is only making the loaf bigger than before is the solution. No redistribution involved. And making the bread bigger than before has an assumption behind, namely that the supplies of water and yeast and flour will be eternal, infinite, forever, will be supplied in profundity. That is not the case. According to contemporary calculations, we are already, ladies and gentlemen, knowingly, unknowingly, willingly, not willingly, fact is that we are already consuming 1.5 planet every year of our consumption. What does it mean, 1.5 planet? It means that we take off from the planet 50% more than the planet is able to supply without deteriorating, without losing its power of replenishing, reconstructing itself. And according to other calculation, in 30, 40 years, we will need not 1.5 planet, but 5 planets. And since there's very little chance of acquiring 4 more planets, then, ladies and gentlemen, what is in front of us is a very murky, very dark, and very frightening future. There are 2 solutions which stand in front of us, and I suggest to you, ladies and gentlemen, we are humans. I started from telling you that humans are characterized, are set apart by their ability to think and talk, So we are thinking and talking. We can make a choice. We can make a choice. We can come together and consider seriously our situation, and slowly, gradually, with first of all reluctant, but then more and more willing cooperation to do something about digging up again from oblivion the older ways of pursuing happiness, getting satisfaction from life, and serving well the dignity of the human race. We can do that. We can decide, for example, that enough is enough. Consumerist orgy, whose consequences we already feel very, very badly in the form, for example, of massive unemployment, which is not going to go away, collapse of credit, had to create massive unemployment because the alleged prosperity, alleged economic boom of last several centuries was caused entirely by us living on credit, us spending means which we did not earn yet and which we are now expecting to be repaid, the cost of our consumerist orgy, by our children. So that is one way to reconsider. Now the other way is to also to really speak about and to think about. Harald Welzer, for example, very, very wise German sociologist, published a book a few months ago under the title Climate Wars, and he predicts that the citizens of 21st century, unlike the citizens of 20th century, will be dying, will be killed, will be murdered, not for ideological reasons, but for the reasons that somebody somewhere desires things which are in their possession. In other words, the wars of redistribution. Different kind of wars, not for that reason any more pleasant, any more easy to endure than the wars of the past. Well, here is the choice. Here is the choice, and I think it's a very good occasion on the side of organizers of this year's Festivalfilosofia to create occasion to think once more about these things which we assume do not create any problem, which we assume we have complete control over. Well, it is not exactly like that, and let us leave Modena remembering that. Thank you.
We can take a few questions.
If you translate it.
Okay, I will translate it. Shall we do like this morning when we want to take a round of several questions and give a final